Welcome to Amici, news and insights from the New York courts. I'm John Carr. Today we're honored to have as our guest the Honorable James P. Murphy, the Deputy Chief Administrative Judge for the courts outside New York City. Judge Murphy is responsible for the day-to-day operations of trial courts in 57 counties outside New York City, 6,000 non-judicial employees, and about 640 judges. In June, he succeeded the Honorable Norman St. George, who was appointed first Deputy Chief Administrative Judge in May. A native of Syracuse and graduate of Syracuse University College of Law, Judge Murphy was in private practice for 20 years, concentrating mainly on civil litigation and municipal law. He also served as an assistant district attorney in Onondaga County and as a member of the Onondaga County Legislature before he was elected to the Supreme Court in 2005. In addition to experience trying a wide variety of cases, Judge Murphy has administrative experience. He was supervising judge for the town and village courts in the 5th Judicial District, overseeing 200 town and village justices, and also served as administrative judge for the 6 counties in central New York. Judge Murphy was also an adjunct professor of business law at Lemoyne College in Syracuse and has been active in state and local bar associations. According to former state bar president Hank Greenberg, Judge Murphy is, quote, enormously popular with a bench and bar. Judge, thanks for taking a few moments to speak with me. Let's go back to your roots if we could. You were the third of 8 children born to Supreme Court Justice Thomas J. Murphy and Mary Jane Murphy. What lessons do you learn growing up in such a large family?
I guess I think it's probably collaboration at its heart. Whatever the task was that we had for the day, it could be trying to help my mother get everybody's beds made, whatever it was. We all worked together. I mean, we were a pretty close family and close in age, and a lot of us, pretty much all of us are every 2 to 3 years apart. And, there was just kind of a family mission that you had to meet, whether it was somehow we had to get one of my siblings to work, somehow we had to get the driveway shoveled, the leaves raked, whatever it was, there was a certain collaboration there that became very natural, to be honest. I also say you definitely developed a sense of humility, as I did anyway. I think it's sort of my siblings. So you were one of 8, so no matter how important you thought whatever it was that you were working on, maybe that wasn't the most important thing of the day to the family and whatever. So I think it was a certain amount of that. And of course, the last thing, certainly not least, is compromise. I had 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and I would be lying if I told you that my 5 brothers and I always saw eye to eye on everything. Although we are pretty close, but there are certainly times when we had to compromise whatever our position was in order to accommodate whatever the family needs were.
It sounds like good training for a future administrative judge.
Looking back, it kind of is, I think. I think it has served me well, and I have actually talked to a couple other people who came from large families. And we thought that was as I used to joke with the lawyers, that, my dad was kind of an old school law judge, as far as he wanted things just so. And some of the lawyers have pointed that out to me over the years. And I said, well, you guys had it easy. I had to try and convince my dad that I needed a car on a Friday or Saturday night. And let me tell you, that was a lot harder than trying to win a case or a motion in court.
And another difference is you couldn't go to an appellate court. He was a court of last resort, correct?
Well, maybe my mom.
So what lessons did you learn specifically from your father?
Clearly hard work. My dad was first generation to go to college for him. He worked 2 jobs in law school. My brothers and myself, I've worked since I was 14. That was a certain, we're just ingrained in us. I mean, that's, we watched my father do it. We watched my mother work harder. that was something that we were there. My dad got me very into a commitment and dedication, I think, to your community and certainly the law. My father got involved in local politics. He was a supervisor and then became a county legislator, and he went on to be an assemblyman. And it was always a sense of you have to look out for and do whatever you can for your community. And that impressed me greatly. And actually, I kind of have followed that somewhat unintentionally, but I think it was ingrained in there that, in my brothers and my sisters, that you have to be involved in your community, whatever level you choose to do it, whether it's volunteering to be on the zoning board of appeals, the libraries, whatever. This community is yours, and it's up to you to take care of it.
Now, what lessons did you learn specifically from your mother?
Hardest worker ever. As I say, taking care of 6 boys, 2 girls. She was a nurse when she started out, and then later worked at home. But just watching her selflessness and taking care of all of us, and her complete devotion and dedication to the family. I mean, only when you become a parent do you realize how difficult it is to just changing the beds and the sheets. My wife always comments on, your mother's washing machine must never have stopped, because we were all teenage guys growing up together. And, it's something, she never complained, never did anything for herself. But you always knew that. And I think there was always a sense, my sense was I was always watching to see what I could do to help her, because I appreciated that. That was a monumental task to try and raise 8. And back in that day, my dad's working, he was working a lot of hours, and to try and keep 8 people fed, 10 people fed. And, my mom was the one kind of left at home, and to try and make sure that we were somehow all taken care of. And, both my parents seemed to, we were not wealthy, but you would never know that. I mean, my parents made us feel like we lacked nothing, and we really never did. And I think that's a great tribute to my mom, who was able to, I'm sure, at times, was with her own frustration and just dealing with everything she was dealing with, but it never dampened her willingness to help us and assist us.
That's a great tribute to both of your parents. Now, I gleaned from your name that you're likely of Irish heritage.
Yeah, I am.
And so how did that Irish heritage impact your formative years and the way you view the world, do you think?
I'm not, well, certainly there was a religious component to it. I mean, I was Irish Catholic, and we were taught to, from very young to believe in God and have a strong faith in the community of the church. I think was probably the most important thing, and to help out in that community. But I will also say, I think, and I've heard this over the years, we're pretty good at debate and argument in the Irish culture. There's a certain knack for it. Nowadays, I think maybe it's missing at points, because I remember all my uncles and great uncles and people, big family gatherings where people debated every issue on the face of the earth, but never, certainly passionate, but never screaming, hollering, calling names. I mean, you had to win the debate. You didn't just win by being the loudest one in the room. And I kind of, as a young kid, enjoyed sitting around and watching that all play out between my aunts and uncles.
It must have been fascinating. So what were you like as a 12-year-old?
So I was very social and outgoing at that point. And I don't really know why that is now. I don't feel like maybe because of a big family, who knows, and I don't mean just my siblings. I mean, we had a very big extended family, and we were all pretty close, and, big Sunday gatherings and everyone there. And so we hung out a lot with adults. We hung out a lot with kids. So it was very comfortable for me in social settings. I did seem to try and maybe it's because the way, I don't know what it is from, but I'm usually all in. If I get involved in something, I'm all in, and that was no different. I mean, I was president of my freshman and sophomore class at my high school, and it was just something I always was keen on operations and watching how things work and trying to. I wasn't really be a leader. It was just, I guess, because I paid attention more than probably other people did.
Well, you mentioned earlier the I don't know if it was by example or what your parents said, but the civic engagement, getting involved. So
I'm
that
sure.
started very early. I mean, long before you got involved in government or politics or college,
Yes.
you were involved in the governance of your school.
Yes, that's true. And the student body, the legislative branch of the student body, all that, because I was very interested in our school and my fellow students.
Do you have any hobbies or outside interests?
I love the outdoors. I mean, if I have, my wife will say that when the summer comes, whatever, I'm outside as much as I can. I golf, I fish, I like hiking, I like snowshoeing in the winter. If there's an opportunity to be outside, I pretty much take it.
What's your favorite movie?
What genre? I mean, what do you? If I go historical, it's got to be Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Jimmy Stewart.
Of course.
Yeah, I love him fighting against corruption and standing up to the powers that be and doing the right thing. I've always admired that. More modern, I love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I think that's, I'm a big Tolkien fan. And so when those movies came out, I was probably one of the first to line up with my daughters to make sure we saw that. And I guess my comedy, probably from watching it with my daughters and also my own experience in high school, which don't draw any specific analogies to, is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I love that too. Yeah.
I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Did you always want to be a lawyer?
Honestly, yes. Weirdly, in fact, I was just talking to a college buddy of mine, and he told me he always admired me because he had no idea what he was doing, and I knew from, I don't know, maybe now they would call it middle school, but somewhere like 7th and 8th grade, I probably from watching my dad and what I was doing. It really cemented for me in law school. I'm sorry, in high school. There was a great program, and I didn't really appreciate it at the time. I was involved in a youth court that was run locally with the DA and a county attorney. And what we actually I tried as a defense lawyer, criminal cases. I think what must have happened now as I look back, I mean, they had students being the jurors, they had students being witnesses, they had these were real cases. I know I defended a kid on a petty larceny. I think they must have already agreed to like an adjournment, a contemplation and dismissal or something, and a local town judge was involved, and we had to go through a whole training. I was the defense lawyer, so I had a local attorney in the bar that kind of mentored us as to how that worked. There were judges, and they were mentoring the local students who were going to act as judges. And then at the end of the day, we did several trials. And that kind of cemented it for me. I really kind of liked the idea of courts. I like the idea of people that, ultimately at the end of the day, there has to be a resolution of disputes. And I like the way it all seemed very natural to me. It seemed very worthwhile to me to be involved in that process.
So what did you major in at St. Lawrence?
History.
History. I usually think of that as an engineering school, maybe not.
Yeah. But. No, it was pretty much liberal arts. If I had gone back, I took a lot of history. I took a lot of English, and I took a lot of government and economics. I think if I had gone back for one more semester and took one more course in each of those, I think I would have had a triple major because I really focused on those things. I knew, again, knowing I'm going to law school, I focused very much on reading, writing, and comprehension, and trying to develop those skills as best I can. But the other side to me loved economics, and I always liked economics and business.
All of us sounds like very good training for where you are now. But how did you meet your wife?
Best friends in high school. We actually met, I probably either freshman or sophomore year. We were pretty much best friends for a year and a half or so. And then we started dating a little bit. And then that continued. We went away to college kind of saying, okay, well, this is a break, and that's the end of that. But then we came back after the first semester of Christmas, we got back together again, and then decided that I guess we both decided that was as good as it was going to get, and and that don't quote me on that one, John. And but no, we both came back and decided that we were thrilled with each other, and there was nothing that we wanted to pursue other than each other.
Oh, what a great story. So back to the present. As Deputy Chief Administrative Judge, you preside over an incredibly diverse region that takes up really the bulk of New York State. We've got larger cities like Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Binghamton, the most rural portions in the state, a number of Native American reservations. You got Long Island. All of that is dissimilar from everything else. You have different cultures, different politics, different traditions, different practices. What are the major challenges and issues, or did I just list them?
Well, it's funny. I don't know if you may or may not know this, but I pretty much just finished 12 weeks of kind of meet and greet around the state. I've been everywhere, from Mayville, which is on the Ohio border, to Malone across the Canadian border. In Malone, if you're driving down Main Street in Malone, your phone thinks you're roaming in Canada. And all across the North Country, all the way out to Montauk, and pretty much everywhere in between. And so I feel like I can comment pretty aptly on this question. Really, the biggest challenge, I think, for everybody right now is access to justice. We have tremendous need for legal services, and how to get people into our courthouses that need to be in here, how to get the ones that do show up here to get them help, because most people now, however, and that's outside my realm, but have very little understanding of the courts or the court systems or how it works. And so when they get here, even if they're here, a lot of them don't know how to advocate for themselves. They don't know how this all works. And I think that's probably our biggest challenge. And I think on the heels of that, we're kind of stuck with trying to adjust our current court operations, which are a little bit archaic in light of the post-COVID realities. I mean, there's always a hesitancy to change things, but COVID did that for us, and now our challenge is to catch up with that. And I guess lastly, is a very inexperienced workforce. The Great Resignation hit the court family very hard. We lost a lot of senior court clerks, deputy court clerks, a lot of administrative people who had decades of experience. And we've gone through a hiring process and filled them with what I think is a lot of very bright, promising people. But it's hard. You can't replace those decades of experience overnight. And yet, here we are at a time when transitionally our court system technology and everything is making us change quick, and trying to mesh those two together, that those old systems into our new systems, and which we haven't even really exposed yet as our new systems, because we're still kind of on the heels of COVID. So it's a challenge. I think the good news is, I don't think the politics, traditions, any of that play into it as much as you might think. I mean, certainly local traditions are there, and most of them are based on some sort of reality and efficiency that, things are different in some of the rural counties where you have 6-7 lawyers in the entire county, and how you make those things work. And some of that leads to local rules and things. But I think for the most part, and I've said this I think 95% of our judges and non-judicial staff are incredibly devoted public servants, and would do anything to try and make this system better. And that's our challenge, to make sure that we give them the support they need, and to provide some sort of uniformity. I think there is a lot to be learned, and we can do that now with Teams and virtual calls, where, if somebody's doing something that makes a lot of sense in Cattaraugus County, and the people in Franklin County can benefit from that, you can connect them. And I've been doing that. I can say, why don't you call Essex County? They have a really good child care center there. And that's so much I think we have a great opportunity to do those sort of things with the new technology, because just like you and I are doing, it's, they can talk to each other and get back to each other in a flash where, that was not that possible before.
What is your mandate from Chief Judge Wilson, Chief Administrative Judge Zayas, and First Deputy St. George?
I guess I hesitate on the use of the word mandate, because they don't really mandate anything. They kind of, I know we talk about the collaborative spirit and everything, and boy, it really is present with those two in Judge St. George. So I would say, I think it's fairly, be sure that we're providing a system of justice that's fair, efficient, and accessible to all, I guess, and importantly, that the citizens of New York believe that to be so, because I think that's really important to all of us. We recognize that maybe because of a lack of understanding of how we do things, and maybe the way we've reached out in the past, that a lot of people have lost a little bit of faith and trust in the court system. And we do lots. I mean, I can't even think all the good things we do, our judges do, and our non-judicial staff do, and people don't know it. And I think it's and I know that's a big part of it, is we've created the communications department and things to try and try and make people aware of all the benefits of the court system, so that they feel a little more comfortable in coming in here. But I think that's probably the most important thing, is to rebuild public confidence in the fairness and efficiency of our court system.
That's probably a nationwide issue,
I'm sure. Well, it certainly is in DC.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that you oversee some 640 judges and 6,000 non-judicial employees. What is the one thing you really want those people to know about James P. Murphy?
I'm very deeply committed to our court family and to the court system and justice system in New York. I've dedicated my whole life to it. I believe it. I live it. And I want them to know, and I have been telling them this, that I'm here to provide, I think, whatever assistance I can to help them serve best all of their court users. I feel like I've got a couple decades here of experience in this, and I want them to know that I'm available anytime to talk to them. And I've said this to all the staff and judges that I've been around to please don't hesitate to call me. I'm very accessible and willing to help them in any way I can.